Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record live at 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. If you enjoy this video, hit that like button, and if you want to submit to be on the show, take a look at the information in the description.
So my hand is 50 cent $1 online home game,
Uh-huh.
and we're eight-handed.
50 cent a dollar online home game. Okay. And how deep are you?
What was that?
How deep?
I'm 567 effective. So
So
it folds to me. And
what I'm going to say here is that this was really, really interesting because you said that your opponent, and maybe I'll link to the post because you sent it to me in the email. Maybe I can link to it in the live stream, and then I'll link to it when we make this video for YouTube, when we cut it up after the fact. Your opponent posted this hand in Reddit, right? After the fact. Your opponent.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so that's really interesting. So 50 cent a dollar, eight-handed, 567 effective, okay?
It folds to me in middle position, and I open with King of Hearts, King of Diamonds to $4.
King of Hearts, King of Diamonds from MP1, okay?
The button calls his villain, and he covers me.
Yep.
So then the flop comes 6 of clubs, 7 of clubs, 4 of hearts.
So your head's up, right?
Heads up.
And the flop comes... What was the flop?
King of clubs, 7 of clubs, 4 of hearts.
All right, so King of Clubs, 7 of Clubs, 4 of Hearts. Okay. So you've got top set.
Top set.
Yep.
So I bet $6.
Okay.
9.5.
Yep.
And then he calls.
Button calls. By the way, as we move along here, I think what needs to be shown or needs to be pointed out right away is how deep you guys are. At a 50 cent a dollar, you're 500, so you're over 500 big blinds, which sort of, you start to see some odd things as we get to the conclusion of this hand, the deeper that you get. But you flop top set here, there's 2 clubs, you've got King, King, it comes out King, 7, 4. You bet 6, the button calls, okay?
So should I ever be checking, or because we're so deep, I just need to start building a pot?
Well, I wonder if there's something that needs to be done here to try to get some more money here into the pot. The problem, of course, is that you block a lot of the top pairs, so he doesn't apt to really have that much. But sometimes when I'm this deep, especially if I've got like middle or bottom set, and I don't block a lot of the top pairs, they're going to bet off, and my opponent's not bet folding top pair. I would go for check raises and stuff on the turn, but it's rare because we had a guy that called in last week who check raised the flop. I don't know the last time, man, I've check raised the flop as the pre-flop raiser. It's kind of a strange play that I haven't really examined all that much. I wouldn't think that you would want to check raise top set though. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it's not the best candidate to check raise. So I mean, I don't have a problem with you betting. So, and again, that's because usually your opponent's either not going to have anything, certainly not going to be strong enough to bet and then call a check raise all that often, or bet in general because I would much rather check raise with bottom set or middle set, right? So button calls. So the button calls, you bet 6, and the button calls, the pot's like right at 20, I would say. Okay. Turn.
Turn is the 3 of diamonds.
Yep.
And then I continue for $18.
So you make like almost a pot size bet here.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
King 7 4 3. What's kind of interesting here is that one of the draws comes in, right, in the form of 5 6. I don't know how wide these guys are playing, but 5 6 suited is obviously only, it's only 4 specific combinations. Again, you have to understand, as I've pointed out many times before, that when you do have top set, your opponent is going to be more skewed towards having draws. So on King of Clubs, 7 of Clubs, 4 of Hearts, 3 of Diamonds, he's going to be more skewed to having a club draw. He's going to be more skewed to having a straight draw, like in the form of 5 6. It would be to the point where, like, say the turn was the 3 of Clubs. I think you probably have to check, especially this deep from out of position. Whereas if the turn's a 3 of clubs and I have 7-7 or 4-4, I'm going to be betting a lot way at a way higher frequency than with king king. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you bet
Hmm.
18, okay? Yep.
So do you think I should check then, if since 5-6 came in, or since it's an offsuit, I should
I
keep
don't
betting?
think so. I don't think you need to check because you can obviously call across. You can definitely call raises, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's such a small, um, portion of of his hand range. So you bet 18, okay?
And then he calls.
So button calls,
And,
okay,
and the river is the 9 of diamonds.
okay,
So the only draw that I'm worried about is 5-6.
yep.
So I bet 45.5.
So hero bets 45.5 into 56, right? Something
Yeah.
like that. Okay. All right. So bet 45.5. Yep.
And he raises to 120.
All right. So this is why I think was a really, really interesting hand for sure. So again, we're playing 50 cent a dollar, really deep, 8-handed. Hero opens to $4 with king king, red king king from MP1. Button calls, heads up. Flop is king 7-4, 2 clubs. Hero bets 6, button calls. Turns a 3, offsuit 3. Hero bets 18, button calls. Pot's 56. River's a 9, no clubs. So there's no flush. The hero has the second nuts behind 5-6 suited. Hero bets 45.5 into 56, button raises to 120. And now the question becomes, do you 3-bet or not, right? And then,
Yep.
one of the simplest things to look at here, again, looking at combinations, is so let's just look at sheer combinations of hands and let's think about the likeliness of how often they are there. Because this is where I think that people sometimes they don't necessarily apply when they're looking at combinations. So we've obviously there's 2 flop combinations, right, of sets, right, 7s and 4s. There are 3 combos of each set. So you've got 6 combos of sets of 7, sets of 4s. Now, when you move, we'll get to 5-6 here in a second. Now, when you move to the turn, I think because of your sort of large flop sizing, I think we can discount pocket 3s. I'm going to throw out pocket 3s in general. Now, 9s is also kind of interesting because is he arriving on the river is he calling your bet of 18 on the turn with 9-9? Maybe he has one combo of 9s. So it's like he's got one combo of 9s and then say 3 combos of 7s, 3 combos of 4s. So you'd say, oh, that's 7 combos. But you have to think that all the flop sets are not always going to play them as a call raise, right? How often is a set going to play it as a call raise? Usually someone's either going to raise the flop or raise the turn, or they're like scared and they'll just call the river if they call flop and call turn. So, I mean, got to be honest with you, just in my experience, I would say that 1/3 of the flopped sets play this way as a call raise. So if you're looking at 1/3 of 6, that's 2. And then you look at maybe one combo of 9s, that's 3. But now you look at 5-6, right? 5-6 suited. Well, that's the hand that we're worried about. There are 4 combos of 5-6 suited, right? But how often are 5-6 just going call? Say
That's
maybe
what,
it's like 75% of the time. So now you're left with like 3 combos of 5-6, maybe 3 combos of sets. What I would say here is that I would be more apt to see 5-6 here played as call raise than a set played as call raise. But I think it's very, very close. And this is really what it comes down to. I never give my opponents credit for being capable of raise folding for value, meaning that if they have a set here and they've played it call raise, I'm never expecting them to fold. This is what my advice here on this hand is that I will never expect them to fold, meaning that I'm going to go all in. If he's got 7s, 4s, or 9s, he's going to call. It doesn't matter. If that's true, then I kind of like raising here, but it's close. if for some reason you're living in some universe where a guy actually could raise fold the set here at the end, like you bet 45, he makes it 120, you jam and he folds pocket fours, then you probably have just a call. It's really interesting. I mean, those are sort of my thoughts. It's always, do you know your opponent? Like you said, it's a home game, right?
Yeah, I know him pretty well,
Uh-huh.
but I think as you see at the end of the hand, my read was off. So I agreed with you that no one's going to be able to fold the set because it could look like I'm spazzing. It could look like I'm value betting worse. So agreed with you, and I end up jamming to target the sets because I also think he can have 3-3, just the way the dynamic plays in the game.
3-3 too, that he's gonna. So I mean, that's like I said, it's really close. I mean, some people in the live chat are saying that the raise is polar to the nuts. If it's polar to the nuts, meaning it's very polarized to the nuts, or say a bluff like a missed draw, then obviously the second nuts is just a call, right? But I don't think that we think that caller, right? Like we think he can have other value here, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he can definitely have other value.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's one of these situations where, yeah, I mean, I think it's very close. But again, you always have to assume, in order for you to open the raising back up here, let's boil this down. I think in order for you to open the raising back up as a jam, you have to be very sure that that all of your opponent's value range is going to call, right? All of your opponent's value range that's worse is going to call. If your opponent is now, if you jam and he folds, that doesn't necessarily mean it. It could mean that he's bluffing, right? But any hand that he's raising for value that's worse than yours has to call. If you start to get into situations where he raises a hand for value and then folds to your jam, I think you get into problems with raising back over the top. So you jam.
I jam.
Yeah.
There's a couple more things I wanted to ask before I reveal. What about like King 9 suited, 7-9 suited? Would he ever raise call with those hands, or those are clear raise folds?
King 9 suited, King 7 suited, is that what you said?
Or King 9 suited and 7-9 suited.
So King 9 suited, of course, would be can he even have? Can he even have? It doesn't look like it's possible for him. I guess he could have one combo, right? So King. This is why it's important to actually sometimes look at the distribution of the suits in your hand, right? So if you've got King of Hearts, King of Diamonds, and it's King of Clubs out there, and then 9 of Diamonds at the end, he can have one combo of King 7 of Spades. Excuse me, King 9 of Spades. If the river was the 9 of Spades, there would be no combos of King. Now, maybe you're thinking that he's going to call with King 9 offsuit too on the button. I don't know. Would somebody call with King 9 if you jammed? And would they raise with 7-9? 7-9 is one of those sneaky ones where if I had 7-9 and I raised you on the button, I would certainly fold to a jam for sure. But I feel like people that are here's the thing. People that are incapable of raise folding for value probably aren't even going to raise 7-9. How about that? Remember how we talk about like people like will sort of cover their leak of not being able to bet fold, raise fold for value, so then they just call or check behind on the river with showdown value just because they don't want to open the raising back up. Mm-hmm. King 9 is kind of interesting because does somebody raise on the? I wouldn't expect King 9 to fold. I gotta be honest with you. I just wouldn't expect it to fold. Just like I wouldn't expect sets to fold, for the most part. Against people. So hero jams. What ended up happening?
So I jam. Mm-hmm. Another reason too is because I figured he would 3-bet 5-6 suited pre-flop some percentage of the time.
Yeah.
And raise me on the flop with 6 high. Uh-huh. So I put him more on sets. So I jam for 420 more, and he ends up folding 7-7 face up.
You jam for 420 more. So 45 into 56 is like 100. He raises to 120, so that's like 220. You're calling 80, so it's like 300. So it's like right around like 720, 320 for him to call. So he's right. Is that right? Yeah. So he's getting over 2-1 here because you jam 420 for him to call. 720, 420 for him to call. So he's getting just under 2-1. But still, it's not like crazy. He folds 7-7 face up. That is really, really interesting, and it's not something that you're going to see every day. So what I'll do, like I said, is I'll put the link to the Reddit post. You sent me the email, right?
Yep.
So hopefully the Reddit post will still be there from this opponent. What I found interesting from the Reddit post is that people ran sims on this. And it's not a common thing to be able to run a sim this deep at, say, 550 effective. The really, really interesting thing that came out, if these people are telling the truth in the sims that they ran at the stack depth, is that 7-7 at the stack depth isn't raised, right? A majority of the time, that it's not raised from your opponent. It's just called on the river, which is somewhat mind-blowing, right?
I read that. That was crazy.
Yeah. You know, it was really, really mind-blowing. Flat, flat, flat. I don't remember what response your hand is supposed to be. I would only assume that if we're going this stream and it's this deep, that the solver would have some of the sets being raised folded. So if some of the sets are raised folded, then you certainly can't 3-bet the river. You're supposed to just call. I mean, I think I would have played it the same way, honestly, that you did, unless like I knew that it was a really good player. But I think it's very, very close. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the call. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call-in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.